A police officer who was unable to solve the case of the unexpected death of the family adopted their only survivor, a son who could not speak. And years later, for the first time, he took a pen in his hands and wrote the name of a person, and as soon as he hit the base, the blood froze in his veins. Hello, my good ones. Right where you are looking at us from and how old you are, we wish you a pleasant listening. My fingers trembled when I took a piece of paper from the table. Just one word written in the uncertain handwriting of a 17-year-old, a teenager who had been silent for more than a decade. One name that froze the blood in my veins. Alexei. I stooped to, chair feeling the room float in front of his eyes. No way, it's impossible. Alexei Viktorovich died many years ago along with his wife and youngest daughter. I saw the bodies myself. I myself stood over their graves at the Trinity Cemetery, holding the hand of little Antoshka, who was silent, burying himself in my side. And now he, my Anton, who has not uttered a word all these years, has written his father's name. What for? What is he trying to tell me? Why now, after so many years? Dad, have you read it? Anton's voice trembled, sounded hoarse, uncertain. He stood in the doorway of his room, pale and with clenched fists. He is almost 80 meters tall, but now he is hunched over, as if he had become that little frightened boy again. He was wearing old jeans and my t-shirt, which I stole it from the closet, too wide in the shoulders. But Anton loved to wear my things. He gestured that it was calmer this way, and now he spoke. I looked up at him, still not believing. For the first time in many years, he called me Dad. Aloud. He did not show with gestures, did not write on a piece of paper, did not type on the phone. Quoth. And for the first time, I heard his adult voice, already breaking, but so dear. Anton, son, I didn't know that. Say, the words got stuck in my throat. What does it mean? Why did you write your father's name? He silently handed me another piece of paper. His hands shook so violently that the paper rustled. I unfolded the paper with trembling fingers. There was a drawing. House. Not our house, not that 2-story building on Sadovaya Street where his family died. Another house, 1-story, wooden, with a rickety porch and an old bathhouse in the courtyard. The fence is made of picket fence, half of which is felled. An apple tree at the gate. Every detail is drawn clearly, as if Anton saw this house recently, remembered every board, and at the bottom of the sheet, in uneven letters, he is alive there. I felt goosebumps run down my spine. The room suddenly became cold, although it was a warm September morning outside. September 29th. Exactly that many years have passed since that tragedy. Sit down. I nodded to the chair opposite, and tell me everything from the very beginning. Start. Take your time. Anton obediently sank into a chair, folded his hands on his knees, looked at the floor, was silent for a minute. Another. I was not in a hurry. Over the years, I've learned to wait. I learned to read his silence, to understand when he is ready, and when you just need to be there. That night, he began at last, and his voice was hoarse, as if rusted from a long silence. I woke up to my mother's scream. He fell silent and swallowed. I waited, clenching my fists under the table. I've been waiting for so many years. Of this story. I tried to talk to him, but the doctor said, "Don't push, he will tell you when he is ready." And so, this moment has come. I got up and left the room. A nightlight was burning in the corridor. Mom always left because Masha. I was afraid of the dark. And I saw... His voice faltered, broke. I saw my dad. He was standing in the doorway of their bedroom, in the hands of... It was a knife, a large kitchen knife, from the set that my mother ordered from the catalog of the TV store. And on the knife was... blood. The world swayed. I grabbed the edge of the table to keep from falling. Dad looked at me, Anton continued, and tears flowed down his cheeks, looked at it and said, "I'm sorry, son. It wasn't supposed to happen this way." And then I heard. Mashka's crying from her room. She woke up and called for her mother. Dad went there. I wanted to scream to stop him, but I couldn't. My throat tightened and I couldn't make a sound. He fell silent, buried his face in his hands. His shoulders shook with silent sobs. I got up, went up to him, hugged him. He snuggled up to me like a baby, and I felt my shirt getting wet with his tears. "It's okay, son. You will. At home. Are you safe?" I whispered, stroking his back. "No one will offend you. I am here." 5 minutes passed before Anton calmed down enough to continue. He pulled away, wiped his face with his sleeve, and took a deep breath. I ran away, back into the room, crawled under the table. He spoke muffled, without looking at me. He sat there and heard. I heard everything. Mashka stopped crying. It became quiet. Then Dad came to see me. I saw his legs, he standing at the table and saying something. I don't remember what I didn't hear. My ears were ringing. Then he left. I've heard how. The front door slammed. Then she clapped again. And then Aunt Valia, a neighbor, came. She was screaming, calling someone. And then you, the police, came. I closed my eyes, trying to digest what I had heard all these years. I was looking for the killer, checking every acquaintance of the family, everyone with whom Alexei worked, everyone who could have access to them. And the killer was right in front of my eyes, only I considered him a victim. Many years ago, on September 29th, I arrived at the call at 1:30 in the morning. I was on duty then it happened. Usually, another brigade went to the murder, but the authorities asked me to get involved. The case is resonant, a whole family. Private sector on the outskirts of the city, Sadovaya Street, where everyone has known each other since childhood. Old houses, large plots, neighbors greet each other through the fence, plant potatoes together, grow tomatoes. Quiet. A place where nothing happens, where drunken showdowns on weekends are the maximum of crime. Neighbor Valentina Petrovna Milovanova found an open gate. She was coming from the night shift, worked as a nurse in the hospital, returned home at the beginning of 6. I saw that the Kravtsovs had a gate for swinging. The door of the house was also open. I thought something had happened, maybe a fire or a robbery. I went into the yard and saw their dog, Rex's shepherd, lying by the porch, dead. This finally alerted her. She went up to the porch. I looked into the house and saw blood on the floor in the hallway. When I arrived, the district police officer had already unhooked the house. Valentina Petrovna was sitting by the neighbor's fence, pale, in her arms. A cigarette was smoking. She did not smoke usually, but the neighbors gave her to calm down. She spoke confusedly, cried. I talked to Olya yesterday, she repeated. Through the fence in the evening, she told that Masha had to sew a mushroom costume for the kindergarten for the autumn holiday. I promised. And now, my God, how can it be? I walked into the house and saw hell. Alexei Viktorovich, 38 years old, entrepreneur, was lying in the bedroom, on the floor, in a pool of blood. Multiple stab wounds. His wife, Olga Dmitrievna, 35 years old, a primary school teacher at the 7th school, lying on the bed in the same puddle, also multiple wounds. Their daughter Masha is 4 years old, in her room in a crib with a pink canopy, which Alexei collected himself when she was born. 1 wound, accurate in the heart. I've seen different things in my career. 2 decades in the criminal investigation department is not a joke, but such a child, a small child in a crib. My eyes darkened, and I had to go out on the porch to take a breath of air. And then forensic experts found Anton. The boy sat in his room, huddled under the desk, covered in blood, although there was not a scratch on him. Alive. The only survivor. He sat and looked at one point, holding his head in his hands. He did not cry, did not scream, did not react to anything. A what? When I tried to approach him, he did not even move. I sat down next to him, spoke quietly, calmly. Anton, my name is Maxim Petrovich. I'm a cop. I'm here to help you. You're safe now. Come with me. Okay, no reaction. As if he hadn't heard me. I had to take him too. Hands. He did not resist. He was like a doll, weak-willed, light. I took him out of the house and handed him over to the doctors. They took him to the hospital, and I stayed to work. The examination showed the murder was committed between 2 and 4 a.m. Kitchen knife tool from the set of the owners themselves, 30. C. Imlong, German steel. The knife was found in the sink in the kitchen. Someone tried to wash the blood off him, but it didn't work out. There were no traces of burglary. The door is open from the inside. The dog was poisoned by a piece of meat with rat poison. Judging by the tests, nothing was stolen. Although there was money in the house, about tens of thousands of rubles in an envelope on the chest of drawers and valuables. Olga's gold jewelry, wedding rings on the fingers of the murdered. Even a laptop and phones remained in place. Everything pointed to the fact that the killer knew the family. He knew well. He knew the location of the rooms. He knew where the children slept, where the parents slept. He knew about the dog that had to be removed. But who, and most importantly, why? What is the motive? I raised the whole city to its feet. We interviewed all the neighbors. No one heard or saw anything. Everyone slept soundly. The houses were old with thick walls. Sound insulation is good. We interviewed all the acquaintances of the family, Alexei's work colleagues. He kept a small shop. Building materials at the central market he traded well, but not richly. Competitors were checked all frequently. Olga's colleagues from the school were checked all off and checked his phone, computer, bank accounts. Nothing suspicious. No debts, no strange transfers, no compromising correspondence. A pure exemplary man. A family man, he did not drink much, only on holidays. I didn't go out. Olga was his first and only woman. That's what the neighbors said. He loved children. He pampered Masha. I took Anton fishing on weekends. A small business that brought a normal income was not luxurious, but lived decently. The mortgage was paid for the house. A few years ago, we were saving up for a new car. The old 9 was already falling apart. Or did I think it was clean? Viktor Semyonovich Gromov, my partner and best friend, said then when a month had passed. Unsuccessful searches. Max, it happens that the killer cannot be found. It happens that someone passes by accidentally and creates horror. Some kind of psychopath, maniac. He went into the first house he came across and made a massacre. Such people have not been caught for years. You know the statistics. I couldn't accept it. He could not close the case and put it in the archive of unsolved. For several months, he fought like a fish flying. I checked every clue, every hint. I drove around the city, around the region, looking for similar crimes, trying to find handwriting. Nothing. A dead end. And Anton was silent. The only witness who could tell everything was locked in his own horror, in his own prison of silence. He was transferred from the hospital to a specialized center for children with psychological trauma. I went to see him every week. Brought toys, books, sweets, sat next to him, talked, tried to get through. Uselessly. He looked through me as if I wasn't there. Psychologists shrugged their shoulders. There was only one diagnosis: deep. Psychological trauma, post-traumatic stress disorder, selective mutism. He saw what he should not have seen, the head of the center explained to me. An elderly woman with tired eyes. His psyche simply turned off speech as a defense mechanism. He'll speak when he's ready. If he is ready, he can. In a year, maybe in many years, or maybe never. In the 4th month, I was removed from the case. The bosses summoned me, she said harshly, without mincing words. Korshinov, you need a vacation. You're too emotionally involved. Take a vacation. Go somewhere. Ventilate. And we will transfer the case to another team. A fresh look is needed, but the other team also did not find anything. Through. 6 months, the case was sent unsolved, and no one wanted to take Anton. The registration of guardianship took a couple of months. Pulp, red tape, checking housing conditions, certificates, medical examinations. I was chased through the authorities as if I were cursed. The guardianship authorities look suspiciously, they say. The man is over 40. The bachelor suddenly decided to adopt someone else's child. Isn't it suspicious? Victor had to vouch for me, and also say a word to my superiors. I underwent a psychological examination as if I was going to commit a crime myself. But in the end, permission was given. I took Anton from the center on a sunny April day. He was then thin, pale, in jeans and a sweater, which he was given in the center. Anton had a maternal grandmother, Nina Zakharovna, but she was in a nursing home after a stroke. She could not serve herself. There were distant relatives, on Alexei's side, a cousin somewhere in Siberia, who no one really knew anything, and an aunt in the Crimea who said directly, I treat my own sores. I don't need someone else's child, especially a sick one. That's it bluntly. The orphanage refused to take a boy with such an injury. They said that there were no specialists. There are no conditions that it requires a special approach. Victor then twisted his finger at his temple. Max, what are you doing? You're bachelor. You disappear at work for days. How will you cope with the child, especially with this? And who can cope? I answered. Vitya, sent him to a boarding school where he will be alone in the corner, sit while the other children mock him. No, I will take him, arrange guardianship, maybe I will cope. Your apartment is spacious, empty, that's right, sighed Victor. But think carefully. This is not a cat that you fed and forgot. This is a child, traumatized child. I thought about it, I said firmly, and he made a decision. The registration of guardianship took a couple of months, paperwork, checks of housing conditions, certificates, medical commissions. I was chased through the authorities like a cursed man. The guardianship authorities look suspiciously, they say. The man is over 40. The bachelor suddenly decided to adopt someone else's child. Is it suspicious? Victor had to vouch for me and also say a word to my superiors. I underwent a psychological examination as if I was going to commit a crime myself, but in the end they gave permission. I took Anton from the center on a sunny April day. He was then thin, pale, in jeans and a sweater, which he was given in the center. He had almost no belongings, a few t-shirts, 2 pairs of pants, toys that I brought, but in which he did not. Played. Everything fit into one sports bag. When we drove home in my old Lada, he was sitting in the back seat and looked out of the window, silently. I turned on the radio. They were playing some pop music. Then I turned it off. It seemed that music is inappropriate. Both were silent. So we arrived, I said, when I parked at our 9-story building on Lennon Street. This is our home, ours with you. You'll like it here, you'll see. Anton got out of the car, took his trunk, followed me. We went up to the 5th floor. I opened the door. The apartment met with silence. I've been living alone since my parents died about a dozen years ago. A bachelor's den, as Victor said. Minimum furniture, maximum books. But I tried to prepare. I bought a children's bed, a desk, a wardrobe. I glued wallpaper in the children's room light with cars. I thought the boy would like it. This is your room, I pointed out. If you don't like something, you say, we will redo it. Okay. Anton went into the room, looked at it with a blank stare. He put the trunk on the floor, sat down on the bed, and continued to be silent. The first months were hell. I am not afraid of this word. Anton did not, spoke to this. I was ready, but I wasn't ready for the rest. He hardly ate. I cooked him everything I knew that children like pasta and sausages, potatoes with cutlets, dumplings. I even tried to bake pancakes, although I didn't really succeed. He picked at his plate, ate a couple of spoons, and pushed it away. I was losing weight before my eyes. He did not sleep at night, woke up screaming. Silent, but no less creepy. I heard him tossing and turning in bed, gasping for air and running to him. He took him in his arms, hugged him, rocked him like a baby, whispered, "Everything is fine, son. Everything is fine. I'm here. You're in." Security. He was trembling, all wet with sweat, clinging to me, but not making a sound. I took him to the doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists, neurologists. Every week there is a new appointment, new tests, new diagnoses. They prescribed medications, lungs, sedative vitamins. No sense, was not enough. One psychologist told me honestly, "Maxim Petrovich, medicine is powerless here. He needs time, a lot. Time in your love. Just be there. Talk to him, even if he does not answer. Read books, walk, live a normal life. Sooner or later, he will begin to return." And I tried. God, how hard I tried. I read him books before going to bed, fairy tales that my mother read to me as a child. 3 Bears read, a cap, a golden key. He was lying in bed and staring at the ceiling without reacting. But I continued to read the evening 4, in the evening. Then I moved on to the adventure of Julie Verno, Stevenson, Dumas. Once I noticed that when I read The Island. Treasures, Anton turned his head and listened. It was a breakthrough. I took him for walks every evening after work, if. There were no calls, we went to the park. They walked side by side in silence. I showed him squirrels, ducks on the pond, told him about trees. Here, this is an oak, and this is a birch, and this is a maple. He did not answer but watched. It was already something. I cooked his favorite food. Learned from her neighbor Valentina Petrovna that Olga often made cheesecakes for Anton. I have never cooked cheesecakes in my life. The first attempt turned out to be lumpy. They burned, fell apart in the frying pan. The second is a little better. By the 10th attempt, I learned how to make them so that they were lush and ruddy. He put the plate in front of Anton, poured sour cream. He looked at the cheesecakes, then at me, and ate it. Everything to the last. It was my first victory. Gradually, very slowly, it began to thaw. He didn't talk, no, but he began to show, with gestures, what he needs. He pointed to the refrigerator. He was thirsty. Will pointed to the book. I want to read it. Nod or shake his head in response to questions. We have developed our own sign language. I learned it better than any foreign language. A year later, it was time for Anton to go to school. I thought for a long time what to do. Take him to a regular school where children will laugh at him, or to homeschooling. I consulted with a psychologist, and she said, "Let him go to school. He needs socialization." Yes, it will be difficult, but isolation is worse. Talk to the director, explain the situation. I went to school number 12, which is next to our house. Director Elena Nikolaevna Zhukova, a strict but fair woman, listened to me. "I understand your situation, Maxim Petrovich," she said. "Let's take a boy, but you must understand that we have an ordinary school. There are no specialists for such children. He will have to study on an equal basis with everyone else." "He is smart," I assured. "He just doesn't speak. If he submits everything in writing, this is a problem." "No," she shook her head. "We will not count verbal answers, only written ones." "But what about classmates? They are children. They can be cruel." "I'll talk to the class teacher," I said. I will ask them to explain to the children. And so they did. Anton was assigned to the first B grade to Tamara Ivanovna Belova, a teacher with 30 years of experience. She convened a parent-teacher meeting and explained the situation. Without going into details, of course, she just said that the boy had an injury. He doesn't speak, but he studies well. I asked my parents to talk to children so that they do not offend. The first year was difficult. Anton sat at the last desk alone, did not play with other children on the breaks, did not participate in common games, but studied well with A's in all subjects. Tamara Ivanovna praised him. She said that such a diligent student was rare, and at home we continued our lives. I tried to be a support for him, which he did not have. He checked the lessons, although I coped on my own. He took him fishing on weekends, just like his father once did. We sat on the bank of the river with fishing rods. We were silent, but it was our silence, understanding, warm. Victor often came to us, brought cakes, toys for Anton, tried to talk to the boy, but he was silent stubbornly. Victor only sighed. Stubborn like you, Max, you're gone. I adopted Anton officially when he was 9. I drew up all the documents. Changed. His last name is Koroshinov. Now he was Anton Maximovich Koroshinov, my son. Unadopted, just a son. Years passed. Anton Ross grew up, moved to middle school, then to high school. He studied excellently, did not make friends, but did not cause problems either. Teachers are used to his silence, classmates too. There were, of course, attempts to bully high school students a couple of times. They bullied, called me names. I came to school, talked to their parents. The problem was solved quickly. Kaekto even apologized. At home, he was as open as he could. He watched football with me on. Weekends, helped cook dinner, walked with the dog, which I adopted, thinking that the boy needed a friend. Labrador Baron became his best friend. Anton stroked him for hours, lay with him on the couch, and I saw his face relax like the tension goes away. But he did not begin to speak. Years passed, not a word. Psychologists said that this was normal for him. Injury. That he will talk when he is ready, that there is no need to push. And I did not press. He waited patiently. And then, a few months ago in the summer, Victor accidentally mentioned it at dinner. I heard that psychological help has now become accessible. New centers are opening. The specialists are good. Maybe Anton should try new techniques. Maybe it will help. I thought about it. Anton was already under 18. Soon, I will graduate from school, go somewhere. How will he live on if he does not speak? I, not eternal. I am already over 50. What will happen to him when I am gone? I found a private psychological center on the internet. Harmony. I read the reviews, they praised me. I called, signed up for a consultation, explained the situation to me. Made an appointment with Marina Sergeyevna Nikitina, an injury specialist. Marina Sergeyevna turned out to be a middle-aged woman with short hair and attentive eyes. She listened to me, nodded, took notes. Then she asked to bring Anton. We will try to work according to a new methodology, she said. Our therapy in combination with gradual disclosure of the trauma. I do not promise quick results, but there is a chance. Do you agree? I agree. I nodded. Anything to help. Anton began to go to Marina Sergeyevna twice a week. I drove him. After school, I was waiting in the corridor while the session was going on. For an hour, he sat on an uncomfortable sofa, leafed through magazines, drank coffee from machine. Then Anton went out. We drove home. He didn't tell me what happened at the session. He couldn't tell, but I could see that he was thoughtful, absorbed in himself. A month later, Marina Sergeyevna called me for a conversation. Maxim Petrovich, we have progress, she said. Anton began to open. He draws what he saw that night. This is a good sign. It means that he is ready to work with trauma, but it can be difficult to go further. When he begins to remember details, he will become worse before it gets better. You must be ready to support him. I'm ready, I assured. Simply, be close. Do not pressure, do not demand stories. When he is ready, he will tell everything himself. And now a couple more have passed. Months. This morning, September 29th, exactly as many years have passed since the tragedy, Anton left me a note with, in the name of his father, and said that he was alive. I was sitting in the kitchen, holding a drawing of a house in my hands and trying to comprehend. Heard. Anton was sitting opposite, looking at me frightened, waiting for a reaction. Anton, I said slowly, choosing my words, do you understand what you're saying? You say that your father killed your mother and sister and that he was alive. This is a very serious accusation. He nodded. I know. I remember everything. I always remembered. He just couldn't say, feared. What were you afraid of? That he'll come back, Anton whispered. That he would come back and kill me or you, Akka said then. He said that if I told anyone, he would come back, and I was afraid. All these years I was afraid. But Marina Sergeyevna says that silence kills me, that I must tell the truth. And I decided that it was time. I got up, went up to him, hugged him. He clung to me, and I felt him tremble. I won't let you be offended, I said firmly. Do you hear? No one will touch you. I'll find him. I'll find it and plant it, I promise. He nodded at my shoulder. Tell me everything you remember, I asked. From the beginning, all the details. This is important. Anton pulled away, wiped his eyes, took a deep breath, gathering his courage. It was after midnight, he began in a muffled voice. I was asleep, but woke up from some noise. At first I thought it was a dream, but then I heard my mother scream. He was so short, frightened. I got up and left the room. A nightlight was burning in the corridor. Mom always left it on for Masha. And I saw my dad. He stood in their doorway. Bedroom. He had a knife in his hand, a large kitchen knife from our set with a black handle. And there was blood, all his blood on the knife. Alive. A lot. Blood. His voice trembled, but he went on. Dad looked at me. And you know what is the most terrible? He did not. He looked evil, did not look like a maniac from the movies. He looked tired and sad. He said, I'm sorry, son, it shouldn't be. It happened that way. It all had to be different. I did not understand then what he meant. I still don't understand. And then Mashka cried from her room. She woke up, got scared, called her mother, and Dad went to her, Anton. He covered his face with his hands, his shoulders trembled. I wanted to scream to stop him, but I couldn't. My throat tightened, and I couldn't make a sound. I just stood and watched him go to Mashka's room. Then I heard her stop crying. It became quiet, be quiet. And Dad walked out of her room, walked over to me, sat down to be at my level. He looked into my eyes and said, You won't tell anybody what you've seen. Nobody. If you tell me, I'll come back and do the same to you. I got it? I nodded. I was small, scared. I nodded. He paused, breathing heavily. And then what happened? I asked quietly, trying to keep his voice even, although everything was boiling inside. Then he left, Anton continued, without raising his eyes. I heard him walking around the house, doing something in the kitchen. I think he was washing a knife. Then he went out into the yard. I was still standing in. Corridor, could not move. Probably a lot of time has passed. I don't know for sure. Then he heard the gate slam. Dad left, and then I ran to my room, crawled under the table, and was sitting there. I just sat and waited for him to come back. But he didn't come back? No. After a while, the gate slammed again. I thought it was him, but it was Aunt Valia, neighbor. She screamed, cried, called someone. Then you came. The police. A lot of people. Everyone walked, talked, and I sat under the table and was silent. I couldn't say anything. My throat felt like a stone. I listened, and the pieces of the puzzle fit in my head. So, Alexei was not killed with his family. He did it all himself. But where did his body come from? We found the body of a man in the bedroom, identified him as Alexei. The expert confirmed the identity from the dental card, moles, scars. How is this possible? Anton, are you sure it was your father? Maybe you mixed something up? I'm sure, he snapped. It was Dad. I won't confuse my own father. It was him. I'm sure, he snapped. It was my father. I won't confuse my own father. It was him. I got up and walked around the kitchen. My head was buzzing with thoughts. If Anton is right, if Alexei is really alive, then what does it mean? That a body was found in their house. Another person? Whom? And how did Alexei manage to replace the body so that everyone would believe? Where did you get this drawing? First, he took a sheet of paper with a picture of a house. Do you know where this place is? No, Anton shook his head. But I saw him in a dream. I've been dreaming about this house lately. I wake up all the time. And I remember every detail, the porch, the fence, the apple tree. Marina Sergeyevna says that this is not just a dream. This memory is trying to break through. He says that I could have seen this house before, but I forgot. And now my psyche is returning these memories. Did you talk about home with Marina Sergeyevna? Yes. She asked me to draw what I saw in my dream. She said that drawing could help. I thought about it. It was necessary to urgently meet with this psychologist, talk, find out what else Anton told at the sessions. But first, it was necessary to check the information. I took out my phone, dialed Victor's number. "Victor, it's me," I said when he answered. "I need your help. Come to me as soon as you are free." "A what? Happened?" Victor's voice sounded anxious. "Is there something wrong with Anton?" "Everything is fine with Anton, even better than good." He spoke. "Really, Max? It's wonderful. Congratulations. But why such a gloomy tone then? Come, that's it. Tell. This is related to the Kravtsov case." Victor was silent for a moment. "I got it. I'm leaving." I hung up the phone and turned to Anton. He looked at me with hope and fear at the same time. "Uncle Vitya is coming soon," I said. "Do you trust him?" Anton nodded. "Okay. You will tell him the same thing you told me. We will need to find this house and find yours. Father, you ready?" "Ready," Anton whispered. "I have been waiting for this moment for 10 years. Victor arrived 40 minutes later, burst into the apartment with a worried look, threw his jacket on the hanger. "Well, tell me that. Do you have it there?" He started, but stopped when he saw Anton in the kitchen. "Tosha, hello. I heard you spoke. It's just a miracle." "Hello, Uncle Vitya," Anton replied quietly. Victor froze when he heard his voice. His eyes were moistened. "Lord boy, I thought I would never hear your voice. What a joy." He came up and hugged Anton like a father. Anton did not move away, even smiled slightly. Over the years, Victor has become almost like his own. He often visited. He brought gifts, took us fishing. "Sit down, Victor." I nodded to the chair. "What I'm going to tell you now will turn our whole idea of the Kravtsov case upside down." Victor sat down and became alert. I nodded to Anton, and he repeated his story. Victor listened, paler with every word. When Anton finished, it hung. Heavy silence. "It can't be," Victor hoarsely said at last. "Max, this is impossible. We found Alexei's body. The expert identified him. How could he? It is necessary to raise the case materials." Victor rubbed his face with his hands. "Look at everything again. Photos, examinations, protocols. But this case is closed in the archives. We will need to officially reopen the investigation." "Can it be unofficial?" I asked. "First, let's check the information. If Anton is right, then we will have a sensation on our hands. And if he is wrong?" "I'm not mistaken," Anton said firmly. "It was my father." Victor looked at him, then at me. "Okay, I'll pick it up quietly. I will say that for reference. Some kind of thing is needed. Tomorrow I'll bring the copies, and I'll go to the psychologist," I added. "Victor." He nodded and stood up. "Max, if this is true, if Alexei is really alive and killed his family, you understand that this is. So? This means that for 10 years we lived next to a lie, that I buried not him, but some other person." "I understand," I answered in a muffled voice. "Therefore, you need to get to the bottom of the truth." Victor left, promising to return tomorrow with the materials. Case. I stayed with Anton in the kitchen. We sat in silence. Everyone was thinking about their own things. It was beginning to get dark outside the window. September. Evening covered the city. Dad called Anton quietly. "What if we find it? What are you going to do with it?" I looked at him. "I will imprison to the fullest extent of the law. For a double murder. He will spend the rest of his life in prison. And if he tries escape, he won't run away. I won't." Anton nodded. But I saw that something was gnawing at him. "Did you love him?" he asked suddenly. "Dad, Alexei, when you were investigating the case, you heard a lot of good things about him. About what kind of father and husband he was. You thought he was a victim, didn't you? And yes, I felt sorry for him, but now I know the truth, and it changes everything. Do you still love me?" "I am his son, the son of a murderer." I got up, went up to him, took him by the shoulders. "Listen to me carefully, Anton. You are not responsible for your father's sins. You didn't choose which family to be born into. You are a victim, like your mother and sister. And you are my son. I got it, and I love you. I loved it 10 years ago, when I picked it up from that center. I love now and will always love." Anton hugged me, buried his face in my shoulder. I stroked his head and thought I was ready. Everything to protect this guy, to find the one who ruined his childhood, to get justice. The next day I went to the Harmony Center. I asked Anton to stay at home, let them rest. Yesterday was difficult for him. I called the center and said that I needed to talk to Marina Sergeyevna urgently. "Administrator." She replied that today she's receiving until 5 p.m. She can see me at 2 in the afternoon. I arrived 10 minutes before the appointed time. The center was located in a modern building on the main street. Bright quarters, comfortable sofas in the waiting area, quiet music. expensive place. I paid a lot of money for Anton's sessions, but the result was worth it. Marina Sergeyevna met me in her office, smiled affably, invited me to sit down. Maxim Petrovich, I am glad to see you. How is Anton? Yesterday he was supposed to come to the session, but he did not come. I was worried. Anton spoke, I said without preamble. For the first time in 10 years, the smile on her face became wider. This is a beautiful news. This means that our work has yielded results. I'm so happy for him, for both of you. He told me about that night, I continued, carefully watching her reaction. About what he saw. The smile faded slightly. I hoped that talking about the trauma is an important step towards healing. He said that the killer was his father, Alexei Kravtsov, and that he, alive? Marina Sergeyevna froze. Her face became impenetrable. Excuse me for hearing me. I leaned forward. Anton claims that his father is alive, that he killed the family and faked his own death. Did you know about it? She was silent for a moment, then nodded slowly. Anton told me about this at the sessions. For the last 2 months, we have been working with these memories. He said he was afraid to tell you because he thought his father might come back, and you did not consider it necessary. Let me know, or to the police. I'm bound by medical secrecy, she replied calmly. What Anton says on sessions remains between us. If he wanted to tell you, he had to do it himself. My job is to help him to cope with trauma and not reveal its secrets. I clenched my fists. She was right, of course, medical confidentiality. But that's it. It was equally a shame that I could have learned the truth earlier. The picture of the house he has drawn, I said, taking out a piece of paper. He says that he sees it in a dream. Do you know what this place is? Marina Sergeyevna took the drawing, carefully, studied. No, I don't know. But Anton did talk about these dreams. He said that the house seemed familiar to him, but he could not remember from where. Maybe this is the place where he was with his father? Before the tragedy. Perhaps children's memory is selective. He could forget many moments, and then they began to return in the form of dreams. I took the drawing and hid it in my pocket. If Anton remembers something else, you will let me know. It's important. This can help find the killer. Marina Sergeyevna looked at me for a long time. If Anton will give permission, I will inform, but only with his consent. I nodded and stood up. Thank you for your help. Thank you for returning my son to me. She smiled sadly. I didn't do anything special. Anton himself did all the work. I only guided him. I left the center with heavy thoughts. Something in Marina Sergeyevna was alarming. Maybe it's just professional detachment? Or maybe something else? It was necessary to check her biography, to find out who she was, where she came from. In the evening of that. On the same day, Victor brought copies of the case materials. We settled down in the kitchen, laid out photographs, protocols, expert opinions. Anton was sitting in his room. I didn't want him to see those pictures. He already had enough memories of his own. Look, Victor pointed to a photo of a body from the bedroom. Alexei Victor. In the evening of the same day, Victor brought copies of the materials. Case. We sat down in the kitchen, laid out photographs, protocols, expert opinions. Anton was sitting in room. I didn't want him to see those pictures. He already had enough memories of his own. Look, Victor pointed to a photo of a body from the bedroom. Alexei Viktorovich, 38 years old, identified by the dental card, moles on the back, a scar from appendicitis. Everything seems to fit together. I took the photograph and looked closer. The face of the dead man was disfigured, multiple stab wounds. It was almost impossible to identify the features. That is why the expert relied on other signs. And who was the expert? Victor flipped through the papers. Sergei Vladimirovich Tkachenko. Do you remember him? I worked in the morgue for 15 years. Experienced specialist. I remembered Tkachenko. A short man with an eternally dissatisfied face, smoked like a locomotive, drank on weekends. Good, professional, but with character. A few years ago, he quit and moved somewhere. I didn't wonder where. Where is he now? I have no idea. I can find out, learn. I need to talk to him. Victor nodded and wrote it down in his notebook. We continued to study. Materials, protocol of inspection of the scene, testimony of neighbors, test results, everything looked convincing. But if Anton is right, it means that a mistake was made somewhere or someone deliberately distorted the data. Look here, Victor. He pointed his finger at the protocol. The dog is poisoned by rat poison. Meat with poison was thrown into the yard about an hour before. Murders, judging by the time when the poison began to take effect. And what does it give? This gives what the killer planned, crime in advance. I knew that I had a dog. I was prepared. Alexei knew his dog. Rex listened to him. I thought logically. If Alexei planned a murder, he would start with a dog. She could make a noise. Wake up. Neighbors. One more thing, Victor continued. There were no traces of burglary. The doors opened from the inside. This means that the murderer either had the keys or they opened it for him. Alexei lived in this house. Of course he had the keys, namely. And now the question, if he faked his death, where did the body come from? Who did he kill and pass off as himself? That was the main question. I went through it. Options. A tramp, a drug addict from the street, someone that no one can grab. But how did Alexei manage to make it so that? The expert identified the corpse. How was it? Maybe the expert was mistaken, Victor suggested. Or he was bribed. Tkachenko has always been. Honest, I objected. Although, who knows? For the right amount of money, people are ready for a lot. We need to find him and ask him. We are. We sat until midnight, studying every detail. We didn't find anything specific, but there were a few clues. Tomorrow, Victor promised to find Tkachenko, and I decided to go to the crime scene, the house on Sadovaya Street. Maybe there will be something there. In the morning, I woke up with a heavy head. He slept badly, tossed and turned all night. Thoughts were spinning in my head. Anton was already sitting, in the kitchen, having breakfast. He looked better than yesterday, as if a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. "Good morning, Dad," he said. And again I was amazed at how unusual his voice sounded. "Good, son. How did you sleep?" "That's all right. I did not dream of that house." For the first time in a long time, I poured myself a cup of coffee and sat down across from him. "Anton, I need to ask you a few questions. Before the tragedy. Do you remember where you went with your father? To the dacha, maybe, or to visit someone?" Anton frowned, thought. We did not have a dacha. Dad said that this was an unnecessary expense. Sometimes we went to the river, to picnics, but these were trips for one day. And on a visit? I don't remember going anywhere far, except for Grandmother Nina's birthday once a year. Grandma Nina is your father's mother. Yes, she lived in the village, far from here. We came to her by bus. It was a long drive, but she died when I was 6 and a year. Yes, until then. Do you remember the name of the village? No, I was little. I only remember that there was a big house, an old one, and apple trees in the yard. My heart beat faster. Apple tree? And what was the house like? 1 story. Anton nodded slowly. Yes, wooden, with a rickety porch. There was also an old bathhouse there. He stopped, his eyes widened. This is that house, the one I painted. This is the house of Grandmother Nina. I stood up abruptly, almost knocking over my cup. You sure? Yes, Lord, I didn't understand it right away. I've only been there a couple of times. The last time was a long time ago. Of course I forgot, but the subconscious remembered. I took out my phone, dialed Victor. Victor, I need information about Alexei's mother, Nina. What was her patronymic name? Wait, I'll take a look. There was a rustle of papers in the file. Here. Nina Zakharovna died a long time ago. She lived in the village of Sosnovka, Lipetsk region. Sosnovka, find out who got it after her death. House, and in general, everything you can about this village. Max, do you think? I think that Alexei could be hiding there in the parental home. No one would have thought of looking for a dead man in his own inheritance. Victor whistled deftly. Give me time. That's it. Figure out. I hung up the phone and looked at Anton. He sat pale, squeezing a cup with his hands. We'll find him, I said, firmly. Today, a couple of hours later, Victor called back, spoke quickly, excitedly. House in Sosnovka. Documents belong to Nina Zakharovna Krovtsova. After her death, he was supposed to pass to the only heir, Alexei. But the inheritance was not formalized, because Alexei, was also considered dead. The house is abandoned. There are almost no neighbors. The village is dying out. About 10 people live there, mostly old people. The perfect place to hide. Let's go. How long does it take to go there? 4 hours if there are no traffic jams. I'll pick you up in half an hour. We go together. Together. I'll leave Anton at home. Maybe we should take reinforcements? What if he is dangerous? I thought about it. We could not officially initiate a case. There was no evidence. Only the words of a traumatized teenager. If we make a fuss, and it turns out that we were mistaken, it will fly in full. But it was also possible to go together to a potential killer. Risky. Take your service weapon, I decided. And I'll take it just in case. If anything happens, we'll act according to situation. Half an hour later, Victor drove up in his SUV. I left Anton a note that I would be late. Let him warm up dinner himself. He did not say where we were going. He did not want to worry. He only said that we were checking the lead on the case. The road took almost 5 hours. We left the city, turned onto the highway, then onto country roads. The navigator led through the fields of the forest past abandoned villages. Victor led silently, with concentration. I looked out the window and thought what we were doing at all. We are going to look for a man who was considered dead for many years. On tip, a teenager who had been silent for so long. Sounds crazy, but what if Anton is right? We drove into Sosnovka Inn at the beginning of the 100th evening. The village really looked extinct. Rickety houses, overgrown vegetable gardens, a broken road, one street with a dozen houses, half of which are boarded up. 2 old men were sitting on a bench near the store playing dominoes. Let's ask them, Victor suggested. Come on. We went out from the car, approached. The old men raised their heads, looking at us curiously. Events coming to such a village. Hello, I greeted. Tell me, where was Nina Zakharovna's house here? One bony old man in a faded cap nodded towards the edge. Village. Over there, on the edge, is the last house on the right side. Only no one has lived there for a long time. Ninata died a long time ago. And her son also died, as I heard. Have you seen anyone come there lately? The old man scratched the unshaven cheek. And what should I see there? I don't go further than the garden. But Zinka seemed to say that she had seen the light. It was not long ago. At night, there was light in the windows, the tramps thought, but no one went to check. None of our business. Thank you, I nodded. We got into the car and drove to the edge of the village. The house was found quickly, exactly as in the picture. Anton, a 1-story, wooden, with a rickety porch, a fence made of a tact, half of which is knocked down. An apple tree at the gate, an overgrown garden, an old bathhouse in the yard. Victor parked to the side so that he could not see from the house. We went out and checked the weapons. I had a pistol in a holster under my jacket. Victor, too. What is the plan? Victor asked. Be quiet. Let's come up and knock. Let's say that we are from the administration regarding the inheritance. Let's see the reaction. If it is him, we will arrest him, and if he resists, then we will act according to the situation. We walked through the broken gate, went up to the porch. The boards creaked under our feet. I knocked on the door. Silence. He knocked louder again. Is anyone at home? I shouted. Victor tried the door to be locked. We walked around the house, looked through the windows. It was dark inside, but the outlines of the furniture were visible. Someone has clearly lived here recently. There was a mug on the table, bread. He's here, Victor whispered. Or it was recently. I nodded. It was necessary to get inside. I went back to the door, ready to kick it down. Police! Open it! I shouted and kicked the door near the lock. We Rashi saw as near as a lock. The door gave way with the third blow. We rushed inside. The weapon is ready. There was silence in the house. There was a smell of mustiness, dampness, unwashed things. Separately or together? Victor asked. Together. Safer. We have passed. Through the hallway into the room. Old furniture, sofa, table, wardrobe. On the table were the remains of food and newspaper. I took the newspaper. Fresher than a week ago. So he was definitely here. We went to the next room. Bedroom. The bed is crumpled. Clothes are scattered on the floor. Victor checked the closet. There were men's things, a jacket, shirts, jeans. Max, look. Victor pointed to the photo on the nightstand. I went over and took the frame. The photo was of a middle-aged woman, Nina Zakharovna, apparently. And next to her stood a man, Alexei Kravtsov, alive, smiling. It's him, I whispered. He was hiding all these years. We searched the whole house, but we did not find Alexei himself. He's gone. Maybe he noticed us, maybe just went out somewhere. We'll wait, Victor suggested. He must return. His things are food here. He lives here. We set up an ambush, turned off the lights so that we could not see that someone was inside. Victor sat by the window in the living room, I in the bedroom. Waited. An hour passed, 2, dark. I began to think that he would not come, that we had scared him off, but then Victor quietly whistled our conditional signal. Someone is coming. I pressed against the wall near the bedroom door, gripped the handle of his pistol, heard the steps of the porch creak. How? The handle of the front door turned. The door opened, and a man entered the house. He turned on the light in the hallway, and I saw him. Face. Alexei Kravtsov, aged with a beard, with gray hair. But it was him. Exactly him. I recognized him from the photographs, from the case. Stop, police! Victor barked, jumping out of the living room with a pistol to the advantage. Alexei froze, turned pale. His eyes widened in horror. "Hands up! On the floor! Vividly!" I commanded. Leaving the bedroom, Alexei slowly raised his hands and knelt. I went over and twisted his arms behind his back, handcuffed. Victor searched him, no weapons. "Alexei Viktorovich Kravtsov?" I asked, although I knew the answer. He nodded, not looking at me. "You have been arrested on suspicion of the murder of Olga Dmitrievna Kravtsova and Maria Alexeyevna Kravtsova. You have the right to remain silent." I read him the rights, but I thought only one thing. Anton was right. His father is alive, and now he will answer for everything we were carrying. Alexei to the city in complete silence. He was sitting in the back seat, handcuffed, looking out the window. His face was indifferent, as if he had resigned himself to the inevitable. Victor was driving. I sat next to him, staring at him. Rear view mirrors. Watch the arrested. Why? I could not stand it at last. "Why did you do this?" Alexei was silent. "Your wife, daughter. She was only 4 years old. How did you do it?" He closed his eyes and shook his head. "You won't understand," he wheezed. "Give it a shot. Explain. You have many years in prison ahead of you to think about, but now you can at least tell the truth." Alexei was silent for a moment. Then he spoke quietly, without emotion. "I owe people, serious people. I took a loan, not from the bank. The bank did not give me a loan. Bad credit history. I took it from one person. I thought I would return it quickly. Business was going on, but it didn't work. Midpoint crisis. Zero. Remember? Nobody bought building materials. The store went bankrupt and the debt grew. Interest was accumulating. I became threatened. They said that the family would be touched if I did not give it back, that the children would be taken away. I tried to find money, sold the car. I took more loans, but it was a hole from which I could not get out." He fell silent and swallowed. And then I came up with a plan. Insurance. A large insurance was issued for the whole family, several million rubles. If the whole family dies, the money had to go to a distant relative whom I had invented. I issued fake documents through an acquaintance. I thought I would get the money, pay off the debt, start a new life somewhere far away. I listened and could not believe my ears. He killed his family. For the sake of insurance money. You killed your wife and daughter for money. Victor could not stand it. His voice trembled with rage. "I didn't want to kill them." Alexei shook his head. "I only wanted to stage it. He hired people, made an agreement. They had to plant someone else's body, burn down the house so that it would be impossible to identify. And my family and I had to disappear and get new documents. We would start living again in another city. Olga did not know. I wanted to make her think we were just leaving. But something went wrong. I finished for him. Yes, the people I hired, they decided to do things their own way. They said that it was easier to kill a real family than to plant other people's bodies, which was more reliable. I refused. But they threatened that they would tell everything to those to whom I owed, and then we would all die, both me and my family. They gave me a choice. Either I do it myself or they do. And in the latter case, they will kill everyone, including me. And if I do it myself, they will give me. We'll help you hide." He spoke monotonously, as if he were telling someone else's story. I thought about it for a week. He did not sleep, did not eat. I understood that there was no way out. If I refuse, they will kill everyone, and me too. If he agreed, at least I would survive. I will be able to make up for everything later. Build a new life. I tried to convince myself that this was the only way out, that I was saving, at least myself. "You only saved your own skin," I said in disgust. Alexei did not answer. Anton? Did you see him that night? Why didn't he kill him? He couldn't." Alexei sobbed. "When I saw him in the hallway, those eyes, I just couldn't. I told him to be silent and left. I thought maybe he didn't remember anything. He was still small. I thought everything would be forgotten. He had not forgotten." I said harshly, "He remembered every day all these years. Kept silent because I was afraid you would come back. And you know what's wrong with him. Became?" He stopped talking. All this time he did not speak. "You ruined his life. I haven't spoken for 10 years. You ruined his life." Alexei lowered his head. His shoulders trembled. He cried, but I didn't feel sorry for him. "Not a drop, but a body?" Asked. "Victor, whose body did we find in the house?" "I don't know," Alexei whispered. "They brought him themselves. They said that he was a tramp, which no one will grab. They bribed her expert to confirm that it was me. I only gave my dental medical card. They did everything. Tkachenko, I sighed. It means that he was in collusion. Yes, he was paid. They paid well. We entered the city around midnight, took Alexei directly to the police station. Victor's superiors were already waiting there on the way. I called and explained the situation. They raised everyone to their ears. The case, which for so many years was considered unsolved, suddenly found a continuation. The dead killer turned out to be alive. Alexei was escorted to the cell, and Victor and I were summoned to the chief. Ivan Stepanovich Morozov, a colonel, a man over 50, gray-haired, listened to our report with a stern face. "Good job, Korshunov. Gromov," he said when we were done. "But there are more questions than answers. This expert is Tkachenko. Where is he now?" "We'll find out tomorrow, Comrade Colonel," he replied. "Victor, he quit a long time ago. The traces were lost. Find him. And those people whom Kravtsov hired. We need all the participants in this case and detailed testimony." "Kravtsov will talk." "It will," I nodded. "I think now he will tell everything well. Tomorrow morning, interrogation, formalize everything according to the law. This is a high-profile case. You can't make a mistake. The press will latch on as soon as they find out." We nodded and left the office. It was 1:30 in the morning. I wanted to go home to Anton, to tell him that it was all over, that his father had been arrested, that he should no longer be afraid. But first, we stopped at the duty office, drew up arrest protocols. The paperwork took another hour. When we finished, I felt wildly tired, but with it came relief. For 10 years, I lived with this cargo. For 10 years, he could not forgive himself for not solving the case. And now it has been revealed. Not thanks to me, thanks to the boy I adopted. Victor drove me home. "Thank you, Victor," I said, getting out of the car. "I wouldn't have done it without you." "Come on, Max. We are. The team has always been there." I went up to the 5th floor and opened the door. The light was on in the apartment. Anton did not sleep, sat on the sofa in the living room watching TV. When I entered, I jumped up. "Dad, I was worried. You didn't answer the phone. I'm sorry, son. The phone is dead, but I have news." Anton froze. His eyes widened. "We found him. Your father. Arrested. He is in custody. It's over." Anton slowly sank down on the sofa. His face was distorted. I did not understand at once whether he was crying or laughs. Then I saw tears. "Really," he whispered, "he would never come back. I promise he'll spend the rest. Life in prison." Anton covered his face with his hands. His shoulders trembled. I sat down next to him, hugged him. He clung to me, and we sat there for so long in silence. He cried with relief from the fear he had worn for so many years. And I held it and thought that I did the right thing, that I took it back a long time ago, that I didn't give up when it was. It is difficult that I believed him when he told the truth. "Thank you," Anton whispered through tears. "Thank you for believing me, that I found it." "Well done," I answered. "You found the strength to tell me this was the hardest part." "We are." We sat for a while, then I sent him to bed. He also lay down, but could not sleep. Thoughts were spinning in my head. The matter is not over yet. We need to find Tkachenko, find those people who were hired by Alexei. To find out whose body we buried 10 years ago. A lot. Work ahead. In the morning, I woke up from Victor's call. "Max, I have bad news." His voice was strained. "What happened?" "Tkachenko was found. Dead a long time ago. Suicide is official. He hanged himself in his apartment, but there is doubt that it was really a suicide. Maybe it was removed to cover its tracks. Damn, and the ends are cut off. It looks like it, but Alexei gives detailed testimony. Tells everything. I think that's enough. For accusation. We have a witness, Anton. There is a confession. There is evidence. He lived in that house. His belongings. Prints. It's an ironclad business. Okay. I will arrive at the branch in an hour. You need to formalize everything. I hung up, got dressed, and went to the kitchen. Anton was already there. I was preparing breakfast. He looked calmer than yesterday, like a mountain off my shoulders. "Good morning, Dad. Will you have an omelet?" "Will, thank you." We had breakfast together. I told him from Tkachenko that the examination was fake. Anton listened attentively, nodded. It means that Dad was not the only one who came up with all this. He was helped. Yes, there was a whole scheme. Professionals have tried, but we will find them. All. And what will happen to Dad now? With Alexei, I mean. Court, then prison. For long. For a double murder, it gives. From 15 years to life. Anton nodded, paused. "Will you go to trial?" he asked. "Of course, I am the investigator in the case. Do you want to go?" "I don't know. I'm afraid, but I probably need to say everything I think to close this page. Decide for yourself. If you go, I'll be there. If not, it's okay too. No one is forcing you. The following weeks flew by in a frantic rhythm. Interrogations, examinations, paperwork. The case was swept up by the press, trumpeted, and the murderer will be resurrected. Journalists were on guard at the station, trying to interview them. I refused everyone. I didn't want to make a circus out of it. Alexei gave detailed testimony, told everything about the debts, about the plan, about the people he hired. He named names, described how everything happened. The examination confirmed that it was not Alexei who was killed in the house on Sadovaya Street. The DNA did not match. The identity of the deceased could not be established, apparently. Indeed, he was a tramp without documents. They found one of the people Alexei had hired. His name was Georgy Olegovich Mitin, a criminal past. He served time for robbery. He ended up in prison just for another case. When he was interrogated, he first denied it, then confessed, confirmed. Alexei's words told how they planted the body, how they bribed the expert. The second participant could not be found. He died recently of a drug overdose. The case was closed. The trial was scheduled for December. The prosecutor demanded life imprisonment for Alexei and 24 years for Mitin for complicity. And I also returned to Marina Sergeyevna. It was necessary to deal with it. Something about her is not. Gave me peace. I punched it through the bases and found something interesting. Marina Sergeyevna Nikitina, maiden name Ryabova, sister of Olga Dmitrievna Kravtsova. The younger sister is 10 years younger. After Olga's death, she changed her surname, received an education as a psychologist, and opened a practice. And all these years, she was looking for the truth about her sister's death. I came to her center and asked for a meeting. She received me, as usual, calmly, professionally. But when I put her documents on the table, her face changed. You knew, I said. From the very beginning, you knew that Alexei was alive. She paused, then nodded, suspicious. I wasn't sure, but I suspected. There were too many oddities in that case. Everything turned out too conveniently. I studied the materials, talked to people who knew Alexei, and I realized that he was in debt, desperate debts. That was the motive, and that's why you agreed to work. With Anton to find out the truth? At first, yes. When I found out that Maxim Korshinov had adopted his nephew, I realized that this was mine, chance. Anton saw everything that night. He could tell the truth, but he was silent, and I decided to help him, talk, not only for his sake, but also for herself, for the sake of my sister's memory. You used a child? No, she shook her head. I helped him. She sincerely helped. Yes, I had my motives, but I really wanted to. So that he recovers, so that he is free from fear. And he was freed. He spoke, told the truth. That's good, it's good. I looked at her and didn't know what to say. On the one hand, she really helped Anton. On the other hand, she used it for her own purposes. You should have told me from the beginning who you were and why you came. You. They wouldn't believe me. They would have said that I was embittered, that I wanted revenge. Evidence was needed, and Anton gave it. I sighed. Thank you for helping him. In spite of everything, she smiled sadly. I loved my sister. Olga was like a mother to me when my parents died. I couldn't forgive myself for not being able to protect her, for not being able to find the killer. Now, at least I know that justice will prevail. The trial took place in mid-December. The hall was overcrowded. Journalists, civacs, just curious. The case turned out to be high profile. All the newspapers wrote about him, showed him on TV. A resurrected murderer, years of lies. The investigator found the killer. Years later, headlines were written in every newspaper. I was sitting in. Hall, next to me is Anton. He wanted to go to court. He said that he had to do it. Gotta look your father in the eye and hear the verdict. I was against it. I was afraid that it would injure him again. But Marina Sergeyevna convinced me that it was necessary. To complete therapy, that Anton must close this page completely. Alexei was led into the hall. He lost weight during these months, lost his face, sat even more. In a prison uniform, in handcuffs, he looked miserably. When he was seated in the dock, he looked around the courtroom. His gaze met Anton. Measurement. Face. Distorted. Anton looked at him calmly, did not take his eyes off. I squeezed his hand and supported him. He squeezed mine back. The judge entered. Everyone stood up. The process began. The accusation of the murder of 2 people was read out. Staging one's own death, bribing an official, fraud. The list was long. Alexei listened with his head bowed. When asked if he pleaded guilty, he nodded. Admit. Fully. The prosecutor began to read out the testimony. Everything that Alexei said during the months of interrogations, about debts, about the plan, about that night. There was silence in the hall. Someone was sobbing, probably women who felt sorry for the murdered Olga and Masha. Then witnesses were called. The first was me. I told how the investigation was conducted a long time ago, how nothing was found, how he adopted Anton, how. Years later, he spoke up and told the truth. How did we find Alexei in Sosnovka? Then Mitin, the same accomplice, was summoned. He confirmed everything, how the body was planted, how they agreed with the expert, how they gave Alexei money and documents. He spoke without emotion, as if he was telling a recipe for borscht. And then, Anton was summoned. I saw him turn pale when the judge called his name. He got up, went to the podium. His hands were trembling. I wanted to come up and support, but I couldn't. I was only mentally with him. Anton Maximovich, tell the court what you saw that night a long time ago, the judge asked gently. She was a woman. Middle-aged, with a kind face, she understood how difficult it was for him. Anton swallowed and began to speak. His voice broke, but he continued. He told me the same things he told me. How he woke up, how he saw his father with a knife, how he went to Masha, how he later threatened him to remain silent. Silence hung in the hall, interrupted only by sobs. When Anton finished, the judge asked, Are you sure it was your father, Alexei Kravtsov? I'm sure, Anton replied firmly. I will not confuse my own father. Thank you. Ken, return to your seat. Anton came downstairs, sat down next to me, trembling all over. I put my arm around his shoulders. Well done, you did it. He nodded, not taking his eyes off his father. Alexei sat with his face buried in his hands. His shoulders were shaking. He was crying. The court session lasted several days. They called witnesses, experts, read out documents. At the end, Alexei took the floor. The judge asked if he wanted to say something. Alexei got up, turned to the hall, looked at Anton. I want to apologize, he said hoarsely. My son, in memory of his wife and daughter. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know that what I have done is monstrous. I can't explain it. I can't justify it. I was weak. I was frightened. I thought only of myself. And I ruined everything. I destroyed my family, ruined my son's life. I'm not asking for mercy. I know that I deserve the harshest punishment. He fell silent, wiped his eyes, then looked at Anton again. Anton, son, forgive me. I don't expect you to. Forgive me, but I beg you. I'm sorry I wasn't the father I was supposed to be. I'm sorry for scaring you, for keeping you silent for 10 years. You're a good boy. You grew up to be a good person, I see. Not thanks to me, in spite of me. I'm glad you have a real father now. Maxim Petrovich, he is much better than me. He gave what I couldn't do for you. He truly loves you. Anton was silent. His face was stone. I didn't know what he thought, what he felt. Alexei sat down. The judge announced a break for sentencing. Everyone stood up and made a noise. I took Anton into the corridor. We went out into the fresh air. How are you? I asked. Anton was silent for a minute, then said, I will never forgive him. No matter what he says, no matter how he apologizes, he killed his mother and... Mashka, he ruined my life. It took me 10 years to recover. For 10 years he was silent, afraid. I will not forgive. I nodded. And don't do it. You don't have to forgive. Forgiveness is not something he deserves. But you know that Anton looked at me. I'm not afraid anymore. I looked at him in the hall and realized that he was pathetic. He, not a monster, not a demon from my nightmares. He's just a weak, cowardly man who made terrible choices. And now he will answer for it. And I'm free. Finally free. I hugged him. He was right. He was really free. Now the fear that had held him for 10 years has disappeared. He was able to look at his father and see him for who he is. Not an all-powerful villain, but an ordinary person who committed a terrible crime and is now responsible. An hour later, the judge returned. She announced the verdict. Alexei Viktorovich was found guilty of the murder of 2 people, faking his own death, bribing an official. Sentenced 25 years of imprisonment in a strict penal colony. Mode. Mitan was given a decade and a half for complicity. I thought he would choose psychology. Marina Sergeyevna offered him to follow in her footsteps, said that he had abilities, that he would understand people who survived the trauma better than others. But Anton chose otherwise. I want to be an investigator, he once told me. At dinner, how are you? I want to help people find the truth. I want criminals not to go unpunished. I looked at him in surprise. Are you sure? It's hard work, Anton. You see a lot of grief, a lot of evil. I know, but I want to. Maybe it's because I've been through it myself. Maybe that's why. I can do it better than others. You found the murderer of my family when everyone thought the case was hopeless. You didn't give up. You believed me. I want to be the same. I smiled. My heart was filled with pride. Okay, enter the Academy of the Ministry of Internal Affairs. I will help as much as I can. I will write a recommendation. Anton entered. With his points, they took it without any problems. In September, he began to study. He came home tired, but satisfied. He talked about lectures, practice, and new friends. He has changed over these 6 months. He has become more confident, stronger, more. He was not that silent, frightened boy. He became a man. And I continued to work. There was a lot to do. The city did not sleep. But every evening I returned home, where my son was waiting for me. We had dinner together, talked, sometimes watched football. The ordinary life of an ordinary family. Exactly what I wanted for him. Victor often came in, brought pies which she baked, his wife Lyudmila, or cake from the pastry shop. The three of us were sitting in the kitchen drinking tea, chatting about life. Victor was proud of Anton as his nephew. He said that the guy was good for following in our footsteps. Marina Sergeevna also came a couple of times, brought books for Anton. I was interested in how things were going. They remained on good terms, despite everything. Anton called her Aunt Marina. She told him about her mother, about their childhood, about what a wonderful woman Olga was. Anton listened with interest. It was important for him to know more about his mother than he remembered himself. One day at the end of summer, Anton came home, pensive. I asked what happened. He was silent for a moment, then said, "Dad, I want to go to the cemetery to see my mother and Masha. I haven't been for a long time." We went there once a year, on the anniversary of their deaths, brought flowers, cleaned the grave. But now was the middle of August, still a month before the anniversary. "Of course we will go. When you want, tomorrow, if you're free." The next day we went to the Trinity Cemetery. Bought flowers, white roses for Mom, multicolored for Masha. We came to the grave. She looked well-groomed. Marina Sergeevna. She came regularly, kept order. Anton put the flowers, stood silently, then spoke, "Mom, I'm sorry. That I rarely come. It was hard for me. It's still hard, but I want you to know that I did it. Truth. The one who did this to you and Masha is punished. He is in prison and will never get out. Justice has triumphed." He paused, wiped his eyes. "I don't remember you well. I was 7. But I remember how you smelled of vanilla and apples. I remember how she read me bedtime stories. I remember your smile. I miss you. I miss him every day. But now I have a dad. A real dad who loves me, Maxim Petrovich. He saved me, gave me a new life, and I will live it with dignity. I promise that I will become a good investigator. I will help people. I will protect those who could not protect you." Tears flowed down his cheeks. I stood next to him, put my hand on my shoulder. He turned to me and hugged me. "Thank you, Dad, for everything." "Not at all, son. I love you. I love you too." We stood for a little longer, then went to the exit. On the way, Anton said, I thought a lot about Father, about Alexei, about why he did it. And I realized that he was not a monster from birth, he was. An ordinary person who found himself in a difficult situation and chose the wrong path, the most terrible way. But it was his choice, not fate, not circumstances. It was his choice. I nodded. Faithfully, everyone has a choice, always, even in the most hopeless situations. Yes, and I choose to live on not as a victim, but as a person who has gone through hell, and he survived, who found a new family, who found his calling. You're great, Anton. I'm proud of you. He smiled. And in that smile, I saw hope. I saw the future, a bright future that we will build together. At home, the Baron, our Labrador, was waiting for us. He barked happily, wagged his tail. Anton sat down and stroked him. "Hello, buddy. Miss?" The Baron licked his cheek. Anton laughed. "And I thought that this is happiness. Simple, ordinary happiness. Home, family, dog. What is really important." In the evening, we sat in the kitchen, drank tea. Anton talked about his plans for the future. I wanted to go to graduate school after the academy to defend my dissertation. He dreamed of working in the criminal investigation department, solving complex cases. His eyes lit up when he talked about it. You'll be an excellent investigator," I said. "Everyone has their own path." Faithfully, we were silent, finishing his tea. It got dark outside the window, the lanterns were lit. The city lived its own life, and we sat at home alone. And that was all, have to. "Dad," Anton said suddenly, "do you know what you've done for me? You gave me what no one could give. Belief in, that there is good in the world, that there are people who help just like that without expecting a reward. What is justice? Exists? You saved me not only 10 years ago when you took me from the center. You saved me every day, just for what you are. My throat caught in my throat. I put my hand on his shoulder. You saved me too, Anton. You know. I lived alone, worked, but life was empty. And then you appeared, and everything changed. You gave me a purpose. You gave me a meaning. You have become my son, not by blood, but by soul. And this is stronger than any blood ties. Anton smiled through his tears. We're a good team, aren't we? The best, I agreed. Anton graduated from the academy with honors. He was assigned to our department. He asked for it. He wanted to. Work next to me. The bosses agreed, seeing his results. The guy was talented. This was recognized by all teachers. Another 3 years passed. Anton graduated from the academy with honors. He was assigned to our department. He asked me to work next to me. The bosses agreed, seeing his results. The guy was talented. This was recognized by all teachers. His first case was to investigate a burglary on the outskirts of town. Nothing complicated, ordinary everyday life. But Anton approached the case seriously, collected all the evidence, found the criminals in a week. The bosses praised him. Victor patted him on the shoulder, saying that the guy would make a good deal. And then something happened that no one expected. It was in. End of November 2029. I was sitting in the office examining another case when I received a call from the maximum security colony where Alexei Kravtsov was serving his sentence. Maxim Petrovich, this is the head of colony number 17, Pyotr Ivanovich Sergeyev. We have a situation here. Prisoner Kravtsov asked to meet with you. He says that he has to tell something important. I frowned. What do I care about him? He's serving his sentence and let him serve. He insists. He says that this concerns his case, that there is information that he hid for the investigation. They asked me to give it to you personally. I wondered what else he could hide. The case was closed, all participants were punished, but curiosity took over. Okay, I'll come tomorrow. I hung up the phone and thought about it. Should I tell Anton? No, it's too early. First, I'll find out what Alexei wants there, then I'll decide. The next day, I went to the colony. It was about 3 hours to drive out of town, through fields and forests. The colony stood in the middle of nothing. Gray concrete walls, towers, barbed wire. A gloomy place. I was shown to the visiting room. I sat down at the table and waited. A few minutes later, Alexei was brought in. He has grown old during these 3 years. His hair is completely gray, his face is emaciated, his back is hunched. He looked about 60 years old, although he was only 48. He sat down opposite me and looked at me. Thank you for coming, Maxim Petrovich. Tell me, why did you call me? I don't have much time. Alexei was silent for a moment, then began. I've been thinking a lot here. 3 years is a lot of time to think. And he realized that he had to tell the whole truth, not only the one told by the investigation. All. Did you hide something? Yes, She did not talk about who was behind this whole scheme. Those people whom I hired the rally, and the second, Kostya, who died. They were just executors. And the customer was different. I was wary. Who? A person to whom I owe money. His name is Stanislav Grigorievich Olinikov. In the 90s, he was a big businessman. He covered half of the city. Then he calmed down, went into the shadows, but he was spinning a lot of money. I borrowed 500,000 rubles from him in 2013. He promised to return it in 6 months. He did not return it. The interest has run up huge. A year later, I already owed 2 million. Olinikov threatened that he would kill the whole family if I did not give them away. I tried to find the money, but I couldn't, and then he proposed. I have a plan. What is the plan? Stage the death of the family, get insurance, pay him off the debt with interest. He is everything himself. Organized, found people, negotiated with an expert, got documents from me. I just had to do it. Kill. Family. He said that if I refused, he would kill everyone himself, including me. I was cornered. I listened, and the blood ran cold in. Veins. This means that Olinikov was behind all this, a large figure that we did not get to the bottom of. Why didn't you tell me about this inheritance? Feared. Olinikov, a dangerous person. He has connections, people. He could get me even here in the colony. Could harm Anton. But now, I don't care. I have cancer, Maxim Petrovich, the last stage. Doctors. They say a maximum of 6 months. I have nothing to lose. I want him to answer so that the real culprit is punished. I leaned back in my chair. Cancer. This means that Alexei will die soon, and he decided to tell the whole truth in the end. Do you have proof? Something that connects Olenikov with this case? Eat. I saved the correspondence with him. Not all, but part of the text message where he threatened, where he discussed the plan. That phone has not been. Works, but I remember the number. You can access the archives of the telecom operator, and there is also a person who knows everything. Attorney. Olenikova Igor Valerievich Krimov. He drew up my documents, helped me with insurance. He is aware of everything. If you interrogate him, press him, he will split. I wrote down the names, numbers. It was a clue. Perhaps the last chance to bring the matter to an end. Okay, I'll check. If it's true, we'll take it. Alexei nodded, exhaled with relief. Thank you. I know that this will not atone for my guilt. I know that I will always remain a murderer in the eyes of everyone, especially in the eyes of my son, but I want to do at least something right. Finally. How are you doing? I asked. I don't know why. It's hard in the colony. They hate me here. Child killers are at the bottom of the prison hierarchy. He was beaten several times but survived. And now the disease. Probably this is fair. I deserve it. I looked at him and saw not a monster, but a pathetic, broken man who had done a terrible thing. An unforgivable crime is now paying for it. I didn't feel sorry for him, but I didn't feel angry anymore. Only emptiness. One more question. Anton, do you think about him? Alexei nodded, his eyes moistened. Every day, every night. I see him in a dream, small, scared, the way he looked at me that night. These eyes, they are chasing me. I want him to know I loved him. He always loved even when he did what he did. I just was. He was weak, he was a coward, but I loved him. He won't forgive you, I said harshly. Never. And I won't tell him what you say. He lives on, builds a life. He became an investigator like me, a good investigator. He has everything ahead of him, and you are just the killer of his family for him. Not a father, just a murderer. Alexei nodded, lowered his head. I know, and rightly so. I got up and was about to leave. Alexei called out, Maxim Petrovich, thank you again for. Took Anton, that they gave him a chance. You are a real father to him, the one he deserved. I didn't answer, I just walked out. I sat in the car for a long time, thinking about what I had heard. Olenikov, a large fish. If Alexei's telling the truth, this is a high-profile case. It was necessary to check the information, to raise the archives, to find Krimov. There is a lot of work to do. I called Victor, asked to meet, told him everything. Victor whistled. Olenikov. I've heard that name. In the 90s, he was a serious figure. Then it calmed down, but, they say, they are still doing business. If we take it, it will be a sensation. But first we need evidence, strong evidence. Otherwise, his lawyers will tear us apart. I'll request the operator's archives. Communication. Let's look at Alexei's correspondence for those years. And you find this Krimov. Talk to him. I found Igor Valerievich Krimov. In 2 days. He worked in a small law office in the city center. I came to his office and introduced myself. He turned pale when he heard my name. I know why you have come, he said quietly. Kravtsov told me. I told me, and now you will tell me everything in detail. Krimov was silent for a moment, then nodded. Okay, I'm tired of hiding it. I have been living with this cargo for 3 years. I can't sleep at night. And what do I have to lose? Let at least a conscience will be cleansed. He told everything. How Olenikov forced Alexei to kill his family, how he organized the whole scheme, how he bribed, expert, how he got false documents, how he took the insurance money, leaving Alexei only a part to live in Sosnovka. Krimov wrote down all this, fearing that Olenikov would remove him, too. He kept the notes in a safe. I took the records. This was irrefutable evidence. Audio recordings of conversations between Olenikov and Krimov, where the plan was discussed. Insurance documents where fake ones are visible. Signature. Bank statements which trace the path of money from the insurance company through shell companies to Kolenikov. We raised the case. The prosecutor's office sanctioned the arrest. A week later, Stanislav Grigorievich Olenikov was detained in his mansion on Rublievka. He yelled, threatened that he knew the right people, that we would all be fired. But there was evidence, too much. He sat in a pretrial detention center awaiting trial. When I told Anton about this, he was silent for a long time, then said, So, the father was not the only one to blame. There was also this Olenikov. Did he make him? He didn't. He gave me a choice, a terrible choice. But Alexei himself decided to go for it. He could have refused, gone to the police, asked for protection, but he chose the easy one. path, or rather, what seemed easy to him. And Olenikov will answer, he will answer in full. Organization of murder, bribery of officials, fraud, he will definitely get 20 years. Anton nodded. Okay, let him answer. Everyone who was involved in the death of Mom and Masha must answer. Olenikov was tried in March 30th. Sentence? 23 years in prison. Krimov received 10 for complicity, but taking into account cooperation with the investigation, the term was reduced to 5, and in May of the same year. Alexei Kravtsov died. Cancer did not give him a chance. The colony called, informed, asked who would pick up the body. I said that no one. He was buried in the prison cemetery, without a cross, without a monument. Just a mound of land with number, I told Anton. He listened silently, nodded. He's dead, he repeated. Now it's definitely over. Yes, it's over. Do you want to go to the grave? No, Anton shook his head. I don't want to. Let him lie there alone. This is fair. And we didn't go. Life went on. Anton worked, solved cases, rose professionally. A year later, he was promoted, given the rank of senior lieutenant. Victor was proud of him. Me too. And Anton also met a girl. Her name was Dasha. She worked as a doctor in the city. Hospital. We met by chance. Anton came to the call. There was a fight in the emergency room and Dasha was on duty. Talked. Then we started dating. 6 months later, he brought her home and introduced her to me. Dasha turned out to be a sweet, smart girl. Redhead, with freckles, with kind eyes. They were sitting in the kitchen, drinking tea, laughing. Anton looked at her with such tenderness that I immediately realized it seriously. Dad, he said when Dasha went to the bathroom. I want to marry her. I smiled. Marry. If you love, get married. She's a good girl. Do you mind? Why should I be against it? You're an adult man, you're 27. It's time to create your own family. They married in the spring of 3031. The wedding was small, about 30 guests in a restaurant on the embankment. Victor and his wife came, Marina Sergeevna too, Anton's colleagues, Dasha's friends. I was a witness from the groom's side, he said. Toast, congratulated the newlyweds. It was warm, sincere, family-like. When Anton and Dasha danced the first dance, I looked at them and thought that this is happiness, the boy I took from the Center 17, years ago, now an adult male. He has a beloved wife, a good job, bright future. He overcame. That's it. He went through hell and remained a man. It was a miracle. After the wedding, Anton and Dasha rented an apartment not far from us. We often went to dinner. Dasha was cooking pies. We were sitting in the kitchen, talking. The Baron, our old Labrador, lay at his feet, sighing contentedly. An ordinary family life, exactly the way I dreamed of, for Anton. And a year later, Dasha announced that she was pregnant. Anton was glowing with happiness. He told me about his plans, how he would equip the nursery, what toys he would buy. I rejoiced with him. Soon I will have a grandson or granddaughter. In September 30,032, a girl was born. They named her Olga, in honor of Anton's mother. Small, red-haired like her mother, with huge eyes. When I first took her in my arms, she looked at me and smiled, and I felt my heart overflow with love. Hello, Olenka, I whispered. I'm your grandfather, Max. Anton was standing nearby, looked at us with a smile. Dad, thank you for everything, for what you are. Not at all, son. I thank you for the fact that I have. We embraced, and I knew the circle was closed. The family that I lost once when my parents died returned in a different form, but returned. Anton, Dasha, little Olya, my family, my blood, although not by genes. Another 5 years passed. I turned 63 and retired. He worked in the police for 40 years. Enough, it's time to rest. Anton had become a captain by that time, headed the disclosure department. Murders. Victor also retired. We often met, went fishing, played chess. Olya turned 5, a chattering, cheerful girl. A red-haired whirlwind. She called me Grandpa and Max. I came It was a weekend and we walked together in the park, fed the ducks, rode the carousel. Once when we were sitting on a bench and eating ice cream, Olya asked, Grandpa Max, why doesn't Dad talk about your dad? About Grandpa Alexei? Anton did not tell her, did not want to injure her. She only knew that her grandmother and aunt had died a long time ago, that her father had a difficult life, but she did not know the details. Olenka, this is a difficult story. When you grow up, Dad will tell you. In the meantime, know the main thing, Dad loves you very much. So am I. I love you and my mother loves me. You have a good family that will always protect you. Olya nodded, licked the ice cream from her lips. I I know I love you all. And she hugged me, small, warm, smelling of strawberries. My granddaughter. Procreation, future. In the evening, when Anton came to pick up Olga, I told him about the conversation. He frowned. It's too early for her to know. Let it grow peacefully. When he gets older, I'll tell you. But not now. Correct. She didn't need to know about all this now. Anton was silent for a moment. Then he said, You know, Dad, I sometimes wonder how my life would have turned out if it hadn't been for you, if you hadn't taken me away. Then, if he hadn't believed me, most likely I would have stayed in that center or in a boarding school. He would have grown up embittered, broken, or maybe he would not have survived at all. Don't think about it. It didn't happen. But I think and understand how lucky I am that you turned out to be the person who did not pass by, who took it upon himself. Responsibility for someone else's child. You could refuse. You had every reason to refuse, but you didn't. I couldn't refuse, I said, who sat in the corner, frightened, silent, and realized that he had to help. Not because it was necessary, but because he could not do otherwise.
You became my son in the same second. I just didn't know about it yet.
Anton hugged me. You're the best father I could have, the best grandfather for Olga, the best person I'm. Yes, I know. We stood there, embracing, and I thought that life had not been lived in vain, that all the difficulties, all the sleepless nights, all the fears and doubts, all this led to this moment, to this understanding that I had done something important, something really important, saved a person, gave him a chance. And this man not only survived, he flourished. He became a good husband, a good father, a good investigator. He became exactly what he was supposed to become. And I also realized that justice does exist. Not always fast, not always obvious, but it is there. Alexei answered for his crimes. Olenikov answered, That's it. Those who were involved in that tragedy were punished, and Anton got what he deserved, a happy life, loving, family, a decent future. The circle was closed, history ended, but life went on. And this was the main thing. If you like this story, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe to our channel. Your support inspires us to delight you with new and exciting stories every day. On the home screen, you can already find our next story. We wish you all the best and happiness in life.